The great hall of Luminar Prime sparkled with light from 1,000 different worlds. Hyunwoo stood at the human delegation platform, feeling very small. Around him sat the representatives of 53 alien species, each more powerful and ancient than humanity. The station orbited a neutron star, and through the massive windows, he could see its blue-white glow painting everything in cold light. Today was not going well for Earth. Velthara, the council overseer, looked down at him with her 4 golden eyes. She was old, perhaps 1,000 years, and her species had ruled the stars when humans still lived in caves. Her voice echoed through the chamber with barely hidden contempt. "The human colonies in the Kepler belt must be surrendered," she said. "The council has spoken. Your species has 7 days to comply." Hyunwoo felt his hands shake slightly. He had been a scientist once, studying stars and their birth. Now he was a diplomat and he was failing. "Honored Overseer, those colonies house 3 million human families. We have legal claims to those systems. We discovered them. We built them." A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Hyunwoo a moment to realize the aliens were laughing. Cross stood up from the Brektar delegation. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with armor that seemed to grow from his red skin. His species had destroyed 12 other civilizations in the last century alone. They wanted the Kepler belt, and what the Brektar wanted, they usually took. Legal claims? Cross's voice was like grinding metal. "You have been in space for barely 200 years. My people crossed the stars before your world had oceans. You speak of laws? You are the law when you have the power to enforce it. You have no power. Therefore you have no laws." More laughter. Hyunwoo felt heat rise in his face. Not anger, though he felt plenty of that. This was shame. 20 years ago, humanity had been so proud to join the Galactic Council. They thought they had finally made it, that they were equals among the stars. They were wrong. "The Brektar Alliance requires those systems for expansion," Velthara continued. "This council cannot protect every minor species that claims empty space. If humanity refuses to comply, economic sanctions will be imposed. Trade routes will be closed. Your species will be isolated." "That's a death sentence," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Humanity depends on galactic trade for resources we cannot produce ourselves. You know this." "Then surrender the colonies," Velthara said simply. "Evacuate your people. The decision is made." Hyunwoo looked around the chamber. 53 species. Not one of them met his eyes. Not one of them spoke in humanity's defense. They had all seen this before. The strong took what they wanted. The weak gave way or died. This was how the galaxy worked. In his earpiece, he heard Jimin's voice. She was back on Earth in the military command center, watching everything. "Hyunwoo, High Command is sending new orders. Stand by." He nodded slightly, not enough for anyone to notice. His hands gripped the podium. 7 days. In 7 days, 3 million people would lose their homes. Families would be torn apart. Children who had never seen Earth would be forced to leave the only worlds they knew. And for what? Because humanity was too weak to say no. "I hear the council's decision," Hyunwoo said slowly, "but I have a question for this assembly." Velthara's eyes narrowed. "You have no grounds to question." "A question, not a challenge," Hyunwoo said. "How old is the council? How long have the elder species ruled the stars?" Velthara seemed confused by this. "The Aeltorian Empire has existed for 40,000 years. The council itself has stood for 12,000. Why does this matter? And in all that time, in all your explorations, have any of you ever wondered about the first stars?" Hyunwoo asked. "The very first ones right after the universe was born?" Several aliens shifted in their seats. Cross laughed again. "The human tries to distract us with astronomy lessons." "How pathetic." "No distraction," Hyunwoo said. His voice was steady now. The message from Jimin had finished decrypting in his earpiece. He knew what he was authorized to say. "Just a simple question. The first stars formed naturally, correct? From clouds of hydrogen gas pulled together by gravity, igniting fusion in their cores. Random, natural, uncontrolled." "Obviously," said one of the other council members. "A floating jellyfish creature named Paulnash. That is how stars are born." "What is your point, human?" "My point," Hyunwoo said, "is that you're wrong." The chamber went silent. "Impossible," Velthara said. "We have studied stellar formation for millennia. We know. You know what you've observed in the last few billion years." Hyunwoo interrupted. "But the very first stars, The ones that formed in the first 100 million years after the Big Bang, those were different. Those were made. Cross laughed, but it sounded forced now. Made by whom? Gods? Is humanity so desperate they resort to religious fantasies? Made by someone who came before, Hyunwoo said. Someone who built machines to seed the universe with stars. Massive machines, larger than planets, that could manipulate gravity and matter on a cosmic scale. We found them. Now the chamber erupted. Dozens of aliens speaking at once, their translation devices creating a wall of noise. Felthera slammed her hand down on a crystal that chimed like a bell demanding silence. You expect this council to believe such a claim? She said. That humanity, the youngest and weakest species here, discovered something that all the ancient races missed? Yes, Hyunwoo said simply. Because you were looking at the stars themselves. We looked at the empty spaces between galaxies. At the cosmic voids where nothing should exist. That's where we found them. Found what exactly? Felthera demanded. The forged ships, Hyunwoo said. Or what was left of them. Abandoned. Waiting. And we learned how they work. Cross stood up again, and this time his voice was sharp. Even if this fantasy were true, what does it matter? Ancient ruins don't change the present. You still have 7 days. Hyunwoo smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a happy smile. You're right. 7 days. In 7 days, this council will gather at coordinates I'm about to transmit. And humanity will demonstrate something. If you still want the Kepler belt after that, you can have it. This is absurd, Velthara began. 7 days, Hyunwoo repeated. Vela Nebula. Sector 779. Bring your fleets if you want. Bring your scientists. Bring everyone who thinks humanity is too young and too weak to deserve respect. He leaned forward. Humanity did not come to the stars yesterday, Overseer. We were here at the beginning. We just forgot for a while. Now we remember. He turned and walked out of the chamber before anyone could respond. Behind him, chaos erupted as every species began talking at once. In his earpiece, Jimin was already coordinating with Daewon and the Stellar Forge Division. 7 days. In 7 days, the galaxy would learn what humanity had been hiding, and nothing would ever be the same again. The message from Earth reached Hyunwoo 6 hours after he left the council chamber. It contained 2 files. The first was his authorization to reveal Project Genesis. The second was a historical record, something most humans had never seen, something that explained everything. He sat in his quarters aboard the diplomatic shuttle. The lights dimmed and began to read. 200 years ago, in the year 2641, a woman named Sora had made a discovery that changed everything. She was an archaeologist, though that title meant something different for someone working in space. She searched for signs of ancient civilizations among the stars. Most people thought her job was pointless. The galaxy was old, yes, but life was rare. Intelligence was rarer. The odds of finding actual alien ruins seemed impossible. Sora proved them wrong. She had been studying the cosmic voids, those enormous empty spaces between galaxy clusters where almost nothing existed. No stars, no planets, barely any matter at all. Most scientists ignored these regions because there was nothing there to study. But Sora noticed something strange in the gravitational readings. There were structures in the void. Impossible structures. Things that should not exist. Her ship, the Horizon's Edge, commanded by Taehyung, traveled for months to reach the first anomaly. When they arrived, they could barely believe what their sensors showed them. It was a machine. A machine so large that Earth itself could have fit inside one of its engine chambers. It hung in the absolute darkness of the void, silent and dead, but unmistakably artificial. Sora led the exploration team inside. The machine's corridors were vast enough to fly a shuttle through. The walls were made of materials that their scanners couldn't identify. Harder than diamond, colder than the void itself. And everywhere there were inscriptions. Patterns that looked like writing, but in no language anyone had ever seen. The team spent weeks documenting everything. They found massive chambers filled with machinery that seemed designed to manipulate gravity. They found storage units containing exotic matter that shouldn't exist according to known physics. And they found what appeared to be control rooms, with interfaces clearly designed for someone to operate the machine. But who? The machine was old. Not thousands of years old. Not millions. When they finally dated the materials using quantum decay analysis, young me, the team's physicist, delivered an impossible answer. The machine was more than 13 billion years old. It had been built less than a billion years after the Big Bang itself, This doesn't make sense, Taehyung had said, reading her report. The universe was too young. Stars were just beginning to form. Life shouldn't have been possible yet. Maybe life found a way earlier than we thought, Young Mai replied. Or maybe this wasn't built by life as we understand it. Sora spent 6 months studying the inscriptions. They weren't really writing, she realized. They were mathematics. Pure mathematical equations, expressing universal concepts that any intelligent species would understand. Gravity, energy, mass, fusion. And slowly, with the help of computers and the combined knowledge of humanity's best scientists, she began to understand what the machine was for. It was a forge. A stellar forge. A device designed to create stars. The precursor civilization, whoever they were, had built these machines to seed the early universe with stars. Natural star formation was too slow, too random, so they had taken control. They had built machines that could gather hydrogen from the void, compress it with artificial gravity fields, and ignite fusion reactions. They had literally created stars by hand. Youngmi found proof in the machine's databanks. Incomplete star charts showing thousands of stars, each marked with coordinates and specifications. The precursors had planned to fill the universe with carefully designed stars, creating optimal conditions for future life to evolve. It was cosmic engineering on a scale that made humanity's greatest achievements look like children playing with toys. But they had never finished the work. The machines were abandoned. The precursors had vanished, leaving their stellar forges dark and silent in the void. Why? Sora had asked. Why stop? Why leave? No one could answer that. Not then. Earth's governments kept the discovery secret. The knowledge was too dangerous, too powerful. If the galaxy learned that humanity had found precursor technology that could create stars, there would be chaos. Wars. Species would fight for control of the forges. Humanity, weak and young, would be conquered and enslaved, forced to reveal everything they knew. So instead, they studied in secret. Day one, a brilliant engineer was brought in to lead a project that would consume the next 2 centuries. His mission was simple and impossible: learn how the stellar forges worked and build new ones. It took decades just to understand the basic principles. The precursor technology operated on physics that humanity barely understood. Exotic matter manipulation, controlled quantum collapse, gravitational lensing on scales that could compress clouds of gas light years across. Day one's team failed countless times. Prototypes exploded. Test stars collapsed into black holes. Entire research stations were lost to miscalculations. But slowly, painfully, they learned. By 2750, humanity had built their first functioning stellar forge. It was crude compared to the precursor machines, barely able to stabilize a small red dwarf. But it worked. They had proven the concept. Stars could be made by hand. The project accelerated. More forges were built, each one incorporating lessons from the last. Human engineers combined precursor technology with their own innovations, creating hybrid systems that the ancient builders might not have recognized. 12 forge ships were eventually constructed, each one crewed by hundreds of specialists, each one capable of manipulating stellar matter. And all of it remained secret. For nearly a century, humanity possessed the power to create stars, and no one in the galaxy knew. They tested the forges in empty systems, far from trade routes and colony worlds. They practiced until every crew member could operate the machines perfectly. They prepared for a day that might never come. That day had arrived. Hyunwoo closed the file and sat in silence. Outside his window, stars glittered in the darkness. How many of them were natural? How many had been made by the ancient precursors, carefully placed to nurture future life? And how many more could humanity create now that they had inherited the ancient tools? His communicator chimed. It was Jimin, her face appearing on the screen. The council is demanding proof, she said. Velthara contacted us directly. She says if we're lying, humanity will be expelled from the council entirely. And if we're telling the truth? Hyunwoo asked. Then everything changes, Jimin said. Daewon is preparing the demonstration. The forge ships are moving into position. 7 days, like you said, Hyunwoo nodded. What about the Brektar? Cross is mobilizing his fleet. Our intelligence says he's planning to attack during the demonstration. He thinks we're bluffing, trying to buy time. He wants to crush us before we can retreat. Let him come, Hyunwoo said quietly. Let them all come. Let them see what humanity has learned. 7 days. The Vela Nebula was a cloud of gas and dust, the remains of a star that had died thousands of years ago. It was beautiful and lifeless. Soon it would be something else entirely. Yunwu thought about Sora, long dead now, her ashes scattered among the stars she loved. She had spent her life searching for meaning in the void. She had found more than anyone could have imagined. The precursors had left behind the tools to shape reality itself. And humanity, the youngest species in the galaxy, the ones everyone dismissed as too weak and too primitive, had learned to use those tools. In 6 days, the galaxy would see, and they would understand that humanity's silence had not been weakness. It had been patience. The patience to learn, the wisdom to wait, and the courage to act when the moment came. The Vela Nebula glowed with dying light. Sujin sat in the pilot seat of the lead Ford ship, her hands steady on controls that had taken her 10 years to master. Around her, in the darkness of space, thousands of ships had gathered. Every species in the council had sent representatives. Scientists, military commanders, diplomats. All of them waiting to see if humanity's claim was real or just a desperate lie. Behind her, Daewon checked the readings on his display for the 100th time. The Ford ship was unlike anything else humanity had ever built. It was 5 kilometers long, its hull covered with gravitational lens arrays that could focus force across light years. Inside its core sat a container of exotic matter, barely stable, held in place by magnetic fields so powerful they could tear atoms apart. The technology was half precursor, half human, a marriage of ancient knowledge and modern innovation. All systems ready, Daewon said quietly. Target star confirmed. Red dwarf, designation VN7742. Mass approximately 0.2 solar. Fusion reaction failing, in natural decline toward white dwarf state. Perfect, Sujin said. The dying star was small, barely visible even with enhanced sensors. It had been burning for billions of years, and now it was running out of fuel. In another million years, it would go dark forever. Today, they were going to change that. Aboard the observation ships, Hyunwoo stood with Velthara and dozens of other council members. The Overseer's 4 golden eyes were fixed on the view screen showing the 12 human Ford ships arranged in a perfect sphere around the target star. "This is your proof?" Velthara asked. "Ships in formation? We can all arrange ships in patterns, human." "Wait," Hyunwoo said simply. On the edge of the gathering, Cross watched from his battlecruiser. His fleet of 200 warships surrounded the area, weapons charged but not yet aimed. He had expected humanity to flee when they saw his forces. Instead, the humans had ignored him completely, focusing on their dying star. It made him angry. He wanted them to be afraid. "All Ford ships report ready status," Minha announced over the communications channel. She was the coordinator, linking all 12 ships into a synchronized network. "Beginning gravitational lens deployment in 30 seconds. Sujin took a breath. She had practiced this sequence 1,000 times in simulation, but this was real. This was the moment that would change everything. Her fingers moved across the controls, activating systems that bent physics in ways most species couldn't imagine. The Ford ship began to glow. Not with light, but with something else. Space itself seemed to warp around the vessel, creating ripples in reality that made the stars behind it shift and bend. The gravitational lens was activating, focusing force invisible to the eye but overwhelming in its power. One by one, the other 11 ships did the same. 12 points of distorted space, all focused on the small red dwarf at the center. Phase 1 initiated, Daewon announced. Gravitational compression beginning. The star trembled. On the observation ship, sensors went crazy as they detected gravitational waves strong enough to shake space itself. The red dwarf, already dying, began to collapse. Its outer layers compressed inward. Density increasing, temperature rising. "They're killing it," one of the alien scientists shouted. "They're making it collapse faster." "No," said young Mi, who was monitoring everything from one of the human ships. "We're preparing it, watch." The compression continued for 5 minutes that felt like hours. The star shrank from 200,000 kilometers across to barely 50,000. It should have gone dark. Instead, something else happened. Phase 2, Minha announced. Exotic matter injection. From each of the 12 Ford ships, beams of pure energy lanced out. But this wasn't ordinary energy. This was exotic matter, the same substance the precursors had used to build their forges. Matter with negative mass, impossible under normal physics, capable of warping space in ways that defied understanding. The beams struck the compressed star, and the star screamed. That's what it looked like to everyone watching. The red dwarf flared, its surface erupting with energy that hadn't been there moments before. The exotic matter was reacting with the star's core, changing it, restructuring the fusion reactions on a fundamental level. Core temperature rising, Sujin reported, her voice calm despite the incredible forces she was controlling. Fusion rate increasing beyond normal parameters. Hydrogen depletion reversing. Reversing? Belthara stepped closer to the view screen. That's impossible. You cannot reverse stellar aging. You cannot. The star exploded with light, not a supernova, not destruction. This was rebirth. The small red dwarf erupted into something new, something more. Its surface blazed with fury as new fusion reactions ignited throughout its core. Hydrogen that should have been exhausted was suddenly abundant, pulled from the surrounding nebula by gravitational forces the Ford ships controlled. The star grew, expanding, its color shifting from dull red to bright orange to brilliant yellow. And it didn't stop. Phase 3, Daewon said, and there was wonder in his voice. Every time they did this, it amazed him. Stellar transformation sequence. The 12 Ford ships poured power into the star. The gravitational lenses focused force that could have torn planets apart. The exotic matter continued flowing, restructuring the star's very nature, and the star responded, burning brighter and hotter, its mass increasing as it pulled matter from the nebula around it. In 10 minutes, the dying red dwarf transformed into a massive blue giant. It blazed across the spectrum, radiating more energy than 100 old stars combined. The entire nebula lit up, clouds of gas glowing in colors that hadn't existed there seconds before. It was like watching creation itself. On the observation ships, nobody spoke. Aliens who had lived for centuries, who had seen wonders across the galaxy, stood silent before something they had never imagined possible. Humanity had just created a star, not a small one, not a weak one, a massive, brilliant, powerful star that would burn for millions of years, breathing life into a system that had been dead. Cross's hand hovered over his weapon controls. His orders had been clear. If humanity showed weakness, attack. If they showed strength, assess. This was beyond strength. This was power on a cosmic scale. His species had conquered worlds with armies and weapons. Humanity had just conquered physics itself. How? Felthara's voice was barely a whisper. How is this possible? Hyunwoo stood beside her, watching the new star blaze. The precursors built these machines billions of years ago. They seeded the universe with stars, creating the conditions for life to emerge. We found their forges. We learned their secrets. We rebuilt their technology. He turned to face her. We've had this capability for a century. We said nothing because we were afraid. Afraid of what others would do if they knew. Afraid of what we might become if we used this power without wisdom. A century, Belthara repeated. She looked at him with something that might have been respect. Or fear. You sat in council meetings while we dismissed you, while we mocked your weakness. And all that time you could have done this. Yes, Hyunwoo said, but we chose not to. We chose to wait, to watch, to learn how the galaxy worked before revealing what we could do. He gestured at the blazing star. We didn't want to be conquerors. We wanted to be builders. Sujin's voice came over the communications channel. Stellar transformation complete. VN7742 now classified as Class B Blue Giant. Estimated lifespan 4.2 million years. Radiation output stable. Gravitational field balanced. The star is healthy. Healthy. As if stars could be healthy or sick. As if humanity were doctors treating a patient instead of engineers manipulating matter and energy on scales that defied imagination. Cross finally found his voice. This changes nothing. You still have only 12 ships. My fleet number's 200. You have shown us tricks with a dying star. You have not shown us weapons. Daewon's response came through clearly. These aren't weapons, Marshal Cross, these are tools. But tools can be used for more than one purpose. He paused. Would you like us to demonstrate what happens when we compress a star instead of expanding it? When we focus all 12 Ford ships on creating something small and dense and incredibly hungry? The threat was clear. A black hole. They could create a black hole. Right here. Right now. And Cross's fleet, for all its weapons and armor, could do nothing against that. Hyunwoo spoke before Cross could respond. We didn't come here to threaten anyone. We came here to show you the truth. Humanity didn't come to the stars yesterday. We were here at the beginning, even if we didn't know it. The precursors left their tools behind. Maybe they left them for us. Maybe they left them for anyone who would use them wisely. He looked around at all the council members. We're willing to share this technology, under conditions. But first, you need to understand something. The age of taking what you want because you're stronger is over. The age of cooperation begins now. The new star blazed behind him, illuminating his words with light that would reach across star systems. And in that light, the galaxy saw humanity not as the youngest species, not as the weakest, but as something else entirely, something that might just change everything. The council chamber on Luminar Prime had never been so full. Every species had sent not just their ambassadors, but their scientists, military commanders, and leaders. 3 days had passed since the demonstration in the Vela Nebula, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what it had witnessed. The blue star humanity created continued to shine, visible now from dozens of nearby systems, a constant reminder of what the young species could do. Hyunwoo stood at the center of the chamber, but this time he didn't feel small. Around him, aliens who had dismissed humanity weeks ago now watched with careful attention. Fear and respect looked very similar, he had learned. Yunji's face appeared on the massive hologram display above the chamber. She was Earth's High Chancellor, speaking directly to the council for the first time. Her voice was calm and measured, the voice of someone who had spent 3 days carefully considering every word. The Galactic Council stands at a turning point, she began. For thousands of years, power has meant military strength. The ability to destroy, the ability to conquer. Species have risen and fallen based on how many ships they could build, how many weapons they could deploy. But humanity offers something different today. She gestured, and the display changed to show the 12 forged ships. We offer the power to create instead of destroy, to build new worlds instead of taking existing ones, to bring light to darkness instead of spreading darkness across the light. She paused. But this power comes with conditions. Velthara shifted in her seat. Conditions? You would dictate terms to species that have existed for thousands of years? Yes, Yunji said simply. Because we've seen what happens when power is given freely. We've watched the Brektar Alliance destroy 12 civilizations. We've seen species enslaved and worlds burned. We've witnessed the council stand by and do nothing because the strong make the rules. That ends now. Cross stood up, his armor gleaming. You threaten us? No, Yunji replied. We offer you a choice. Continue as you have been, fighting over resources, expanding through conquest, watching as weaker species die. Or join us in something better, a new council, one based on cooperation instead of domination. Pretty words, Cross said. But words are cheap. What stops us from simply taking your technology? Your 12 ships against our thousands? We have the numbers. Daewon's voice came through the communication system. He was aboard one of the forged ships, stationed in orbit around Earth. You're welcome to try, Marshal. But you should know something first. The stellar forge technology is locked, genetically, quantumly. Only humans can operate it. The precursor machines respond to our neural patterns, our genetic markers. We've spent 2 centuries integrating our biology with the technology. You could steal a forged ship, but you could never make it work. We could force you to operate them for us, Cross growled. You could try, Daewon agreed. But the moment we detect hostile control, the ships self-destruct. Completely. The exotic matter containment fails and the resulting explosion would tear apart everything within a light year, including whatever fleet is trying to capture it. The chamber went quiet. It was a perfect defense. The technology was worthless without human cooperation, and attempting to take it by force would destroy it entirely. Jimin stood up from the human delegation area. But we're not here to threaten or withhold. We genuinely want to share this technology. We want to teach other species how to create stars, how to bring life to dead systems. But we need guarantees first. What guarantees? Asked Paul Nash, the floating jellyfish creature. His species was peaceful, caught between larger empires, often victimized by stronger neighbors. What do you want from us? Hyunwoo pulled up a document that had been prepared carefully over the last 3 days. First, immediate cessation of all aggressive expansion by any council species. No more conquering. No more forced colonization. Disputed territories will be resolved through arbitration, not warfare. Impossible, Cross said. My people have been expanding for millennia. It's our nature. Then your people will not receive stellar forge technology, Hyunwoo said flatly. Second, protection for endangered species. Any civilization threatened with extinction will receive council protection. No more standing by while the strong destroy the weak. Several of the smaller species in the chamber began murmuring hopefully. For the first time in their history, someone was speaking for them. Third, Hyunwoo continued, restructuring of the council itself. No more privileged positions for ancient species. Every civilization gets equal representation and equal voice. Decisions will be made by majority vote, not by the decree of the oldest and strongest. Velthara's golden eyes narrowed. You would dismantle the system that has maintained order for 12,000 years. Your system maintains order for those already in power, Yoonji said from the hologram. It abandons everyone else. Yes, we would dismantle it, and we would build something better in its place. And if we refuse? Velthara asked. If the elder species reject your terms? Yoonji smiled slightly. Then we'll work with those who accept them. We'll create new stars in the systems of species who join us. We'll share our technology with those who embrace cooperation, and we'll watch as the old order fades away, made irrelevant by those willing to change. It was a bold strategy, not threatening war but threatening something worse. Obsolescence. If humanity shared their technology with even a handful of species, those species would become incredibly powerful. They could create new systems, new resources, new opportunities. The old empires would be left behind, clinging to their ancient territories while others expanded into newly created space. Han Sol, an intelligence officer, stood up from his seat in the observation area. He had been quiet until now, but he had information that needed to be shared. Council members, our intelligence has detected multiple threats against human leadership over the last 2 days. Assassination plots, sabotage plans. 7 different species have attempted to infiltrate our forge ships or steal our research data. The chamber erupted in denials and accusations. Hansel waited for the noise to die down before continuing. We expected this. In fact, we planned for it. Every forge ship has redundant security. Every piece of research data is encrypted with quantum keys, and every human involved in the program has been prepared for these exact scenarios. He looked directly at Cross. We're not naive. We know revealing this technology makes us a target, but we also know that if we hide it forever, nothing changes. So we're taking the risk. The question is whether the council will take the opportunity. Velthara stood up slowly. She looked old suddenly, the weight of thousands of years showing in the way she moved. You're asking us to give up everything we know, everything we've built. The Aeltorian Empire has stood for 40,000 years because we were strong, because we understood power. And now you tell us that power doesn't matter anymore. No, Hyunwoo said gently. We're telling you that power can mean something different. You've been strong through military might, through conquest, through domination, but imagine being strong through creation, through cooperation, through building instead of taking. He gestured at the display showing the new blue star. That star will burn for millions of years. It will warm planets. It will sustain life. It will be remembered long after every warship in this chamber has turned to dust. Which kind of strength lasts longer? For a long moment nobody spoke. Then Polnash floated forward. His species had lost 3 colonies to the Brektar Alliance in the last decade. They had no military power to speak of, but now they had a choice. My species accepts humanity's terms, Polnash said. We wish to join this new council. We wish to learn the stellar forge technology, and we wish to help build a galaxy where strength comes from cooperation, not conquest. One by one, other species began to stand. The smaller ones first, the ones who had suffered under the old system, then some of the medium powers, species that saw opportunity in the new order. Within an hour, 23 species had declared their acceptance of humanity's conditions. Cross remained seated, his face dark with anger. Velthara remained standing, her expression unreadable. The old powers had not committed. They were waiting, calculating, trying to determine if they could maintain their dominance without accepting humanity's terms. Day One's voice came through again. For those who have accepted our terms, we'll begin training programs immediately. We'll share our knowledge openly, and to demonstrate our commitment, we're going to create another star. This one will be in the Polnash home system, bringing light to a region that has been dark for billions of years. Construction begins tomorrow. The hologram changed to show coordinates in Polnash space, a dead system with no star, only frozen planets drifting in darkness. In a few days it would have a sun. and those frozen worlds might someday support life. Yunji's final words echoed through the chamber. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it, or you can cling to the past. But either way, humanity will continue forward. We'll continue creating, continue building, continue offering a better way. The question each of you must answer is simple. Do you want to be part of that future, or do you want to be left behind in the past? The session ended with no resolution from the elder species. 3 months had passed since humanity revealed their stellar forge technology to the galaxy. Hyunwoo stood in the observation deck of the new council headquarters, watching the star that humanity had created specifically for this purpose. It burned steady and bright, a yellow sun that would serve as the heart of galactic governance for centuries to come. The station orbited at a perfect distance where the light was warm but not harsh. 23 stars had been created since the demonstration in the Vela Nebula. 23 systems brought to life, each one carefully designed to support future colonies, future civilizations, future possibilities. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had imagined possible. "You're thinking too much again," Jimin said, walking up beside him. She had been promoted to head of the new multi-species peacekeeping force, a position that seemed impossible just months ago. Now she commanded ships and personnel from 40 different species, all working together to maintain order during the transition. "Just remembering," Hyunwoo said. "Remembering when we were the youngest species, the weakest, when nobody would listen to us. And now you're co-chair of the council," Jimin smiled. Strange how things change. The new council structure had been implemented 2 weeks ago. Velthara had finally agreed to the terms, though not without considerable resistance from her own people. The Eltorian Empire was learning to share power instead of wielding it alone. It was difficult for them. 40,000 years of dominance didn't end easily, but it was ending. Daewon appeared on the observation deck looking tired but satisfied. He had been working around the clock, training engineers from 30 different species in the basics of stellar forge operation. It was slow work. The technology was complex, and not every species had the biological compatibility to interface with it directly. But progress was being made. "The Academy of Stellar Architects is officially open," he announced. "We have 400 students from 28 different species. Sujin is leading the first practical training session right now. They're learning how to stabilize a red dwarf without transforming it. Baby steps that create stars," Hyunwoo said. "Not bad." The academy was housed on a massive station built by combined effort from multiple species. Human engineers worked alongside Aeltorian designers and Brektar construction crews. Enemies from months ago now collaborated on building something that would serve everyone. It was messy and inefficient and sometimes frustrating, but it was working. A communication alert chimed. Young Mi's face appeared on the display and she looked excited. "Hyunwoo, you need to see this. We found another precursor site, and this one has something new." The discovery was in a cosmic void even emptier than where Sora had found the first forge. Young Mi's team had been systematically searching these regions, looking for more ancient technology. They had found several inactive forges, but this site was different. It contained what appeared to be a massive data repository, still partially functional after billions of years. "We managed to access some of the files," Young Mi explained. "And we found a message. An actual message left by the precursors." "What does it say?" Daewon asked, leaning forward. Young Mi brought up the translation. The precursor language had been mostly decoded now, thanks to the mathematical foundation of their writing. The message was simple but profound. "We ascended beyond the need for physical form. We leave our tools behind for those who follow. Let them finish what we began in their own way. Let them create not because they must, but because they choose to. This is the legacy we offer. The power to shape reality, and the responsibility to use it wisely. We hope you are ready. We hope you are worthy." The message ended there. No explanation of where the precursors had gone or what they had become, just an acknowledgement that they had left deliberately, trusting future civilizations to continue their work. "They wanted us to find this," Hyunwoo said quietly. "All of us, not just humanity. They seeded the universe with stars and then left the tools for others to continue." "But why leave?" Jimin asked. "If they had this power, why abandon it?" Eunji's voice came through from Earth where she had been listening to the discovery. "Maybe they learned what we're learning now, that having power isn't the same as needing to use it." That sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to step back and let others carry forward. It was a profound thought. The precursors could have ruled the universe. They could have shaped every star, controlled every system, dominated every aspect of reality. Instead, they had done the minimum necessary to give life a chance, and then they had disappeared, leaving their tools for future generations to discover. Yunwu thought about humanity's own journey. 200 years of hiding their capability, 2 centuries of watching and waiting and learning how the galaxy worked before revealing what they could do. They had been terrified of becoming conquerors, of letting power corrupt them. The precursors had faced that same choice billions of years ago, and they had chosen to ascend, to leave, to trust others. "We're doing the right thing," Yunwu said, sharing the technology, teaching others, building a new system based on cooperation. "Not everyone agrees," Jimin reminded him. "The Brektar alliance is still resistant. Cross has accepted the peace terms, but his people are struggling with it. Their entire culture is built on conquest." "Then they'll learn a new culture," Daewon said firmly, "or they'll be left behind while everyone else moves forward." Actually, the Brektar were changing slowly. Cross himself had surprised everyone by requesting admission to the Academy of Stellar Architects. His species wanted to learn the technology, which meant accepting humanity's teaching methods, humanity's values, humanity's vision of cooperation over conquest. It was humbling for them. But 30 Brektar engineers were now in classes alongside species they had once considered prey. Junho, the commander of the Peacekeeping Forces Tactical Division, entered the observation deck with a report. "We've had another request for Stellar Forge assistance. The Velkan Confederacy wants help reigniting their home star. It's been dimming for the last 1,000 years and their worlds are entering an ice age. They're asking if we can stabilize it." "Add it to the list," Daewon said. "We have 12 Forge ships and growing demand. We're training crews as fast as we can, but it'll be years before we have enough." "Maybe that's good," Yunwu said. "Maybe scarcity forces us to make careful choices, to prioritize the greatest needs, to work together to decide who gets help first." The list of requests had been growing steadily. Systems with dying stars, regions with no stars at all, civilizations trapped on worlds orbiting unstable suns. Everyone wanted humanity's help now. Everyone wanted access to technology that could solve problems that had been considered unsolvable. Sujin's voice came over the communication system. "Hyunwoo, we're ready for the big project. Day 1, you're going to want to be here for this." They assembled in the main control center where displays showed a massive operation in progress. This wasn't about creating a new star in some distant system. This was about doing something that no one had ever attempted, something that would either prove humanity's vision or destroy it completely. Daewon brought up the schematics. The galactic core, a supermassive black hole with the mass of 4 million suns. It's been dormant for billions of years, just sitting there consuming matter slowly. But the precursor data suggests something incredible. They plan to use these black holes as power sources, controlled power sources that could provide energy for entire galactic sectors. "You want to harness a black hole?" Jimin said flatly. "That's insane." "It's ambitious," Daewon corrected. "And it's what the precursors intended. The data is clear. Black holes aren't just destroyers. They're potential engines if you know how to control them. And we think we do." The operation would take all 12 Forge ships working in perfect coordination. They would create a containment field around the galactic core's black hole, then carefully feed it matter in controlled amounts, harvesting the energy released as that matter crossed the event horizon. If it worked, it would provide nearly limitless power. If it failed, it could destabilize the entire galactic core. "This is a decision for the Council," Hyunwoo said, "not just humanity." The vote came 3 days later. 37 species voted in favor. 5 voted against. The rest abstained. It was enough. The project was authorized. Sujin piloted the lead Forge ship into position at the galactic core. Around her, the other 11 ships formed a precise geometric pattern, their gravitational lenses already beginning to warp space. At the center, the black hole waited, invisible and patient, a monster that had consumed countless stars over billions of years. "This is for the precursors," Sujin whispered as she activated the final sequence, "for the architects who came before us, and for all those who will come after." The Forge ships poured power into the containment field. Exotic matter formed a shell around the black hole's event horizon, creating a barrier that shouldn't exist according to conventional physics. Matter began to flow into the black hole in controlled streams, carefully measured, perfectly calibrated, and energy flowed out. Not heat, not light, pure energy, transmitted through quantum channels to receivers positioned throughout the galaxy.